friends. Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. Hey, friends. Thank you so much for listening to episode 67 of the podcast. We are already almost halfway through July, and I don't know about everyone that's listening right now, but if you're in Texas, you probably are experiencing some of this intense heat. So I hope you are staying cool wherever you are. I know one of my favorite places to listen to podcasts is in the car driving, or sometimes while doing laundry or other things around the house. So whatever you may happen to find yourself doing right now, I'm so grateful that you're part of this Creative Impact family. Today's episode is so inspiring, and my guest today is Kathleen Schuler. She is currently the director of the Störling Conservatory in Kansas, and Kathleen and I overlapped at Belhaven as dance majors. It was fun reminiscing on that and also just hearing her journey since that point. After she received her B.F.A in dance from Belhaven, she danced for 2 seasons as a company member with Störling Dance Theater, and then she has had a variety of teaching and choreographing roles over the years. For 8 years, Kathleen directed a trainee style dance program for Störling Dance Theater called their Artist Development Program before Störling Conservatory was established in partnership with Visible Music College. It was really amazing hearing about Störling Conservatory and how they have created a conservatory-style Bachelor of Arts in Dance degree with 3 different concentration options. So people can get a concentration in performance, choreography, or dance ministry. They also have a 1-year certificate in dance. And there are so many amazing things that they are working on right now to develop. Something we don't mention in our conversation, but I think is super good to know in case you are interested, is that Störling Conservatory will be having their fall audition on November 19th, this fall, November 19th, 2022. After hearing our conversation today, if you are interested, I definitely encourage you to check out their website and their social media and potentially audition. A thread that goes through our whole conversation today is the idea of dreaming big dreams and realizing that God is a God of big dreams. I love Kathleen's encouragement towards the end where she asks, why not you? Why not now? I left our conversation feeling so inspired and full of faith. Wanted to thank all of our patrons for the show. You can learn about how to become a patron for the show by going to creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. That's creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. Our most recent content is some bonus content with Kathleen where we talk about the importance of arts education and what that looks like from a Christian worldview. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Kathleen Schuler. Kathleen, I am so excited to have you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited that we get to catch up and kind of hear what's happened in the last, how many years now? 13 years in your life, something like that. 12 or 13 years since you graduated from Belhaven. So super fun thinking back to kind of our crossing paths at Belhaven and kind of where our journeys were together, and then seeing everything that God's done in your life since then is just super fun. So kind of crazy how time flies though.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, wow.
You blink and it's gone.
Exactly. So I graduated 10 years ago, and that just seems wild to me. I'm like, I don't know how that's possible, but super fun to get to catch up. And so I'm curious to hear from you, just like, what are you doing currently, and just sharing a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of get into some more details.
Sure. So currently I'm directing Störling Conservatory, which is in partnership with a college in Memphis, Tennessee, called Visible Music College. And so they asked us about 3 years if we would partner with them to have a certificate in dance. And so that kind of led into this whole beautiful journey, which we'll get into later, of creating Störling Conservatory. And we are becoming the dance department for this college. And so we're in Kansas City and they're in Tennessee, but we're becoming a campus for them. So
that's so cool.
Eventually the goal is that we'll have all the majors on our campus. But for now, we just have dance.
Yeah.
So I'm directing that. And I'm a wife and mother. I have 2 girls, a 4.5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And a little boy on the way, due in September.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
So
So I
exciting.
never thought I'd be doing all of this with little kids and bearing the children.
Yes.
But the Lord had different plans, and I love it. So good. It's his perfect timing, and it just goes together somehow.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I'm a director, campus lead, not technically chair because I don't have a master's degree. I'm currently working on it. I think I would become the chair of this department. We're still kind of in process with developing everything. We got our approval for the state of Kansas this year. So this is just kind of our first official year going forward. So all of those details are being worked out, but it's just really an incredible journey. And Laura Morton just moved to Kansas City last week. I saw her yesterday, and she is coming on our team, and she's going to be our professor of dance and help me through this crazy process and do all of her teaching methods and ballet pedagogy and all the anatomy stuff. And
she's just kind of a wealth of knowledge, so that's really so exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah. Fun to be able to partner with her, and I'm excited to see how it's going to continue to develop and flourish. And I'm excited to hear more about it too as we get into it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can rewind a little bit and just talk a little bit about kind of your journey to this point and, kind of how you first got into dance and what that looked like for you.
Yes. So I grew up in Kansas City, and I first started dancing, like really dancing, with Dramatic Truth, actually. So this is when Hannah Anderson was like 9 or something.
Aww,
she was so little. And Seth was like a toddler walking around. Seth York.
Yes. I need to get Seth on the podcast too.
Yes, someday. Because everybody talks about him, which is great. So they were there when I was dancing, and I danced with them until I was about 15, I think.
Cool.
At Dramatic Truth, and was dancing under Tobin James. She was my first Graham influence.
Yeah.
And she's amazing also. She trained at the Graham School under Martha. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And so then when, like in high school, I switched to the Culture House. They started like a trainee program for Störling Dance Theater. And I was at an Audeum intensive, probably the one where I met like everybody.
Yeah.
So this was over 20 years ago. I was just reminiscing yesterday about it.
Yeah.
And I remember clearly in the hallway, Mona cornering me and just asking what my future was, and saying that they were going to start this trainee program. And she thought it'd be great for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she really wanted to develop professional dancers with it. So I came home, which is funny because she's in my hometown, but I came home and I was like, I think I'll do that.
Nice.
So I did that. Like my last year of high school, I was homeschooled. So I was able to do both together. And I just really fell in love with dance in a deeper way. But I decided not to go to college for it because I was like, you don't need a dance degree, to dance professionally. You just need a degree,
Yeah.
Or my parents really wanted me to have a degree, I should say. I didn't really care. So then I went to this local university, Avila University, and I was a freshman as a double major in communications, graphic design minor, and theater. So theater and communications major.
Okay. So you were like all over the board with that.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Started the programs. There's like 3 different areas of focus there. And I was like, what is all this? And I was homeschooled all the way. Like my whole entire life I was homeschooled. Yeah. So that was a big transition, just being in a classroom setting. I did not like the theater. I was like, what is this theater world? And it was too much time at the computer for graphic design. I got bored being inside all the time. I was like, I want to be outside. I want to move. And so I was guesting in a company, Störling Dance Theater performance, because I had been in it as a trainee and they were repeating it. And so they just had me do my same little like guest part,
Right.
And I remember Jeremiah, the executive director of the Culture House, Mona's husband, pulled me into his office and he was like, I really think you should go to Belhaven. Like, I really think you'd be happy there. So consider transferring because you just don't seem like, this is working. I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go visit. I'll just go visit. We'll see what happens.
Right.
So my mom is a school teacher, and so she it's going to be hard for her to take off. And so Christiane Lizab offered to go with me to Belhaven for the February audition, which is like their second audition, as a transfer student. And I remember them asking me if I should stay in the dorms or if I wanted to stay with Christiane, who is really good friends with Laura Morton, and she was going to stay at her apartment. I was like, no, I'll just stay with them. I'll stay with Laura and Christiane. So that was like my first experience at Belhaven. I stayed with them, or with Laura, in her little son's room. And then we went to the audition, and I was like, wow, this place is kind of amazing. And I don't know, I just had this feeling like I'm supposed to be here. And I met my bestie at that audition, Tabitha Swires.
Tabitha, yes.
Who's then Tabitha Gray. We were both transferring in. She was a fiery redhead.
Yeah.
We met at that audition, and then we have just stayed like super, super close sisters since then, like just very tight.
Beautiful.
And so then I transferred, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm transferring. And I'm so grateful that I did. It was definitely the Lord. Yeah, it was meant to be there. And so I was at Belhaven for 3 years. So that was a little bit tricky to get all of my credits done for dance, because I transferred in a full load of freshman credits, but a lot of them I didn't need them because they were not related to dance,
Yeah.
But Cynthia was amazing, and
to squeeze it all in.
like helped me squeeze it all in. She was my advisor, and has still to this day is still my advisor in life. And,
same.
And I was texting her this morning, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And so, she knew Mona and Jeremiah in the Culture House, and she was really excited to have me there. And so, that started my Belhaven experience. And it was just definitely a exclamation point in my life. Like, it was when I found the Lord, like in a deep way, like a real way for myself. I grew up in a Christian family, but I kind of felt like when I went to school, there's all this theology swirling in my head, and I just didn't really know exactly why I believed what I believed. And I was in a very serious relationship at the time, and we tried to do it long distance, and it didn't work out. And I really thought I was supposed to marry this childhood, sweetheart. And we didn't, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But also just having that brokenhearted experience and just be really raw before the Lord. And I just really pressed into his presence during my Belhaven years. And again, with Tabitha, she was always like wanting to pray and just be on our faces before the Lord. And so we did that a lot, like in the prayer room in the student center, in our dorm rooms, and in the Bitsy Irby, in the costume shop, in all the studios. And we would just go and we wanted to experience the presence of God. And we were just like, why follow the Lord and be a Christian if it doesn't change your life every day? And if we can't be different and feel his presence and know that he can make our hearts heal and make us into, do incredible things. So that was really like my focus when I was at college. Like I don't remember going to parties or events, or like, not that Belhaven's a party school at all.
Right.
Like, the parties are drinking tea and wearing hats and Helen White, which I did do some tea parties. Yes.
Yes.
But, I just didn't go to the formals and things like that. And I was just really hungry for the realness of who God was, and definitely found that there. And I was still really unsure of my career as a dancer. I didn't know why I was dancing. I loved it, but I didn't know what it meant. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to be a performer or a choreographer or a costumer. I worked in a costume shop while I was there.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. And there was a season where the costume director left in the middle of the year, totally unfinished costumes. And so another girl and I finished all the costumes for the whole school.
Wow.
It was really totally crazy.
Yes.
So I lived in the costume shop.
In the deep end.
Yes. Until 1 or 2 every morning, sewing costumes, fitting everybody. And it was really beautiful, and I loved it. And I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. Actually, it was amazing. So then I graduated, and I thought that maybe I'd do choreography, but then I felt like I was supposed to go back to Kansas City. I didn't want to because of my breakup. And I was just like kind of a weird place with my parents. And both of my brothers, I have two older brothers, and they went to colleges on the East Coast, and then they stayed there. And so they never came home. They like stayed on the East Coast to work. And so I just assumed that I wouldn't come home, that I would just go somewhere else. But I didn't want to stay in Jackson. I was like, no, I don't really want to stay here.
I get that for sure.
Yeah, it was a little bit too hot. So I actually had a bunch of dreams my senior year that I was supposed to go home to Kansas City, reconcile with my parents, and that the Lord would show me the next step. And so I did. I moved home and reconciled with them. And I had auditioned for Störling Dance Theater, which never in a million years would I just didn't think I'd go back there. I mean, I love the place. Like it was like in my blood, as a child, and in my youth, but I just didn't know that was my direction to go. So I went back and I got in, and I was thrilled. And I was like, wow, I actually really love this. And I remember standing in the room where I had been training, like before going to Belhaven. And I had this moment of like, I'm here again, and I'm doing the same pliés at the same bar, and I'm so unhappy. And I was just like, why? What is happening?
Yeah.
Like, did I just waste my time? Like, why? And so I kind of went through, I was there for 2 years and helped Mona with costumes. She's an incredible seamstress. She designs all of their costumes and hand makes them. And so she tutored me in really some of the deeper like ways of sewing those costumes. She just creates them all from just her head.
Wow.
And just whatever idea that she has for the story ballet, like the production that she's doing.
Yeah.
So I loved that. And I mean, the training was amazing. The dancers are incredible. The community is just beautiful there. And it was just perfect. And I was just really unhappy with it. And I was sewing a lot. I will say I was probably sewing too much because that was how I was making my money. I was teaching, choreographing, sewing, and dancing in the company.
Gotcha.
And so it's just kind of a lot of by myself also. And I felt a little bit isolated. And I had been to Paris the summer before. So the summer after graduation, before being in the company, I went to Paris, which was a lifelong dream of mine, with Leah Clark, now Slavens, who was also at Belhaven. And so we were gone for like 6 weeks, I think, and just got a Eurail pass and went all over Europe. And we spent 2 weeks in Paris with YWAM at their summer of service. And that's another like major turning point in my life, I think, was dancing on the streets and telling people about Jesus, like with, my movement and like with my testimony. But I didn't know my testimony, what it was. They're like, what's your testimony? I was like, I don't know. I just love Jesus. So I would just like dance, like I want to know him, and people would come up to me and they would be like, what was that? Who are you? What do you believe? That was so different, and
wow.
And so it's just connecting sharing the gospel with improvisation and choreography and worship and that sort of thing was just a new thing that I had never really experienced. And as a child, for whatever reason, my mom had always just told me to dream big dreams. And I don't even know if she knew how powerful like that just dream bigger dreams was.
Yeah.
And I had this ballet that I wanted to do on the story of Moses, which became my senior project at Belhaven.
I remember that.
Yes, it was this big production. It was very big. Anyway.
Yes, it was really, really cool.
Yes.
Super powerful. But yeah, I'm sure a ton of work too.
It was. I had to rewrite my proposal, I think 4 or 5 times before Cynthia and Laura were like, okay, you can do this. But it just had a lot of costumes. I made all the costumes. There were, 80 costumes, and it was a really incredible experience. So I dreamed of doing this ballet when I was, probably not even in high school yet. And my mom, she said, I told her, I said, I want the New York City Ballet to do this. This is like the biggest dream that I, in my small little elementary school brain could think of. Right. So New York City Ballet, I'd just seen them perform. And so I was like, oh my gosh, they're everything. So like, I was like, maybe they can do it. Maybe I can set it on them someday. I'm totally naive, didn't understand the dance world at all. Right. But she just was like, I think you should dream bigger than that. I don't think that's as big as what God has planned for you. So then in my mind, I was like, okay, well, what's the most impossible place where I could dance. And I was like, oh, in front of the Eiffel Tower. I don't think anybody ever dances in front of the Eiffel Tower. And I had this picture from my cousin. It was a card. And I framed it, and it was the Plaza Trocadero, which is like this open space right across the river from the Eiffel Tower. And it's just big open plaza. So I had this picture and in my room. And so I looked at it. I said, okay, there, I want to dance there. That's the most impossible place I could ever imagine dancing, in my life. So my second week in Paris with YWAM, they were like, we have a surprise for you guys. We're going to spend the day praying, and then we're going to go to this new place where we've never danced before or done open airs sharing the gospel. And we come out of the elevator, walk up the stairs, go around this building, and it's that place. It's the picture from my my postcard of the Eiffel Tower right in front of you, the Plaza at Trocadero. And it's like, this is my dream. Like, this was the most impossible thing that I could think of, was dancing right here. I didn't even know where it was actually. And I just, started weeping. I was like, what is happening? And so then for the next week, every day we were there, and we did like 3 hours open air concerts, dancing and sharing the gospel. And so then I went back for 5 years. Like after that, I just like kept going and kept going. And so that was really a turning point. And I felt like after I danced there was this one day where it was raining, and then this like a rainbow came out, and I danced in the rain, this picture of this rainbow and the Eiffel Tower. And I'm in this like tour jeté thing, and dream come true, right?
Yes.
It's incredible. And I felt like the Lord said, what's the next dream? Like, what's your next dream? What's the next impossible thing? And I thought, oh, doing project dance in Paris. I was like, hey, that sounds pretty impossible. And so this was in 2009 when I had this idea, like, oh, maybe we could do this here, and I'd done project dance in New York and Atlanta and various places. So I kind of knew what it was. So then I went back to Kansas, did the whole Störling, dance company thing. And it was just like, what? I had this incredible experience in Europe, and I was just so empty. And I was like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do during the year before I can go back in the summer. So then I got involved in this ministry at a church that was close by, and I started there a dance ministry for them. And I helped with their youth group, and I started a college ministry for them because I didn't have anything for college students. And so I did that for 2 years, and it was amazing. There were 0 artists or dancers in this college group. Totally different new experience for me. But I needed that, like, that just different world look.
Right.
That's where I met my husband, Cody. And so we have this whole beautiful story, not super traditional, but just really incredible of how the Lord brought us together there. So during that, I was working in this church pretty much full time, and then being in Störling Dance Theater, and then teaching in the evenings. And that was kind of how I was doing things, choreographing here and there on the side. And so then I did that for 2 years, and then kind of had this moment of, okay, I think I'm not going to continue in the company. I think I'm going to take a year off, just do ministry, just dance, sharing the gospel, and just pray and see what happens. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm like at this weird, I don't know, I'm not married. We weren't even, I wasn't serious with my husband at that time, or my then to be husband, of course. And so during that time, the woman who was in charge of Störling's trainee program, Christiane Lizab, she's from France. And so she had to go back. Her visa, she had some visa stuff. And so she go back to France. And so she was like, here you go, take it over. You can do this. I was like, okay. So I took it over, this dance program, and back to Mona and Jeremiah. And they told me, they're like, we really would like this to be more of like a college program, not so much like a trainee program. Like there are trainee programs for companies. Every company has one pretty much. But we just feel like there needs to be an equipping program for artists. And so would you take your experience at Belhaven, and would you like create a 9-month kind of intensive artist development program? And so I did that, and it was amazing. I loved it so much. Like I had no idea that I would even be good at that, And so I did that for 8 years. I was the director of that. And in the middle of that, got married. In the middle of that, had Project Dance Paris.
So cool.
That happened. Yes. Yeah. I was at Project Dance in Israel, and I had helped kind of with some of the background stuff for it because I was there a week early and Cheryl's flight was delayed. And so she was like, will you help Chloe Gonzalez, who was directing it, with this, because I've been around Project Dance. Yes, Chloe. So I did, and I helped her with all the details. And we were out to dinner one night, and Cheryl was like, I really think that you're the person to help produce Project Dance Paris. Like it can happen, and you need to be the one that really pushes it forward with Christiane. Because Christiane was back in France, and she wanted to do it, but she just needed some push. She just needed some assistance. So then the next summer I went there, and we had our first official Project Dance meeting, and so then we did it the next year. It was amazing.
Wow,
I was like,
that's so
okay,
cool. Lord,
this is done. Now what's next? So just all of this is, like just learning to dream bigger, in this time, and then seeing that dream be fulfilled. And so then having the obedience of just continuing my everyday job, which was also like a dream I didn't even know about, which was directing this dance program. So then we get into, I'm married and I have one kid, and I'm still directing this dance program. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I don't know what's next. And Jim Mills do you know Jim Mills?
I do. Yeah. I've met him a couple of times. I think he came to Belhaven when I was there at some point. And then he also was at an Audeum intensive at one point, I got to hear him speak as well. So it's Jim and Anne, is that right?
Yes. They are amazing.
Yeah.
And so they've been around everything from the beginning, and they lived in Belgium for years, like a really long time.
Yeah.
And they just recently, now like 4 years ago, probably relocated their permanent residence to Kansas City.
Whoa,
Super
cool.
random, because their son actually lives here. And so I knew them. I didn't know them super well, but I did know them. But Jeremiah and Jim were good friends, with Randy and like that whole crew. They're just really tight. And so he, was just started encouraging me with what I was doing. And he was like, there's this school in Tennessee, and I really think that you guys should partner with them. Like they're really solid. They're just, it's a worship school for music. And Dr. Ken Stortz is the president, and he was one of the lead singer-songwriters in the band Skillet early on.
Oh, really?
And
that's cool.
And so then he saw
bringing
the
me
music.
back.
Yes.
I used to love Skillet back in the day.
Yes. So he was like one of the founding members, and
so cool.
He was deep into the music industry, and then was like, wow, Christians are not being prepared correctly for this. What is happening? He left, got his master's, got his doctorate, and then started a college. 23 years ago now, I think.
Okay.
And so finally I was like, okay, let's just meet him, see what, see if it's a good fit. So he planned to come to Kansas City. I totally forgot about it.
Oh, no.
Dr. Ken texted Jeremiah and myself like on a Thursday or something. He was like, I'm going to be in town tomorrow. Can we still meet? And we were like, oh no, yes, let's do this. And so we met with him for 1 hour. We had 1 hour, and it was amazing. He was a kindred spirit, and it was just meant to be. And we had so many questions. We didn't know anything about each other practically besides what Jim had shared. And it was a perfect fit. And so he was like, let's just try it. Let's just start. And you have enough material with this dance program that you've been directing to easily have a 1-year certificate in dance. And so we just have to match all this criteria to submit it to our accreditation and to get it approved. So let's just work on that this next year. So that happened to be, August of 2019. And
cool.
I met with him probably a week or two after I found out I was pregnant with my second baby. So I was like, okay, Lord, this is going to be a very interesting year, but let's do it. And then of course had no idea COVID was around the corner. Right.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
We started this journey, and it just fell into place so quickly and easily. And he was like, you have so much material. We really should, once we get this certificate approved, we should start working on a bachelor's degree, because you have what you need, and you have access to the teachers, and your mind is already there. Like that's what you're wanting to do, but there's not enough space in a 1-year certificate, to do that, to do the education, to prepare dancers. for what they need.
Right.
Yeah. So we worked on that all year. And then the month that I had Elsie, my 2-year-old, was the month that COVID hit. So I went into the hospital to have her, and everything was open, and I came out and everything was on lockdown.
Whoa.
It was really interesting.
That's like,
to watch it happen like in a hospital. You know, we went in, no one was wearing masks or anything, came out, everybody, you had to stay at home. It was a stay at home. And
that's insane.
yeah, it was so weird, but it was really a good thing for us because I needed just that nesting time, and postpartum is really challenging for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually really grateful to just have nobody bother me.
Yeah, just be home. Yeah.
Yes. And my husband was able to work from home, and my mom is in town. And so she is taking care of her mother, who's 94. And so they would come over every day to help with my then 2-year-old, and then to help me and help the new baby. And it was the sweetest 6 weeks, like just precious, flew by. And then at the end of that is when Dr. Ken said, hey, let's start the bachelor's degree, like this summer. Let's start outlining it. I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's go. And so then I spent a year working on that. We established Störling Conservatory in the process because we knew we needed a partnership with Visible. And Störling Dance Theater is a company, and the Culture House is a youth academy, really.
Yeah,
the Culture House Conservatory of the Arts, but there's a school. The schools really just go up to like 18, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so we needed something that was like a college level dance program. And we wanted to be connected with Störling Dance Theater, like Mona's legacy was what I was really passionate about continuing.
Yeah.
And so we established that. And so then we worked on getting the bachelor's degree approved, and we finally got that approval March 2020, right when my little baby turned 2. The same month, we got the Kansas board approved us to become a teaching site and for the bachelor's degree to go in person. And so now we're working on recruiting for that. It's pretty small. I think we have like 5 students for the fall.
Yeah.
But we're still accepting applications right now. And until probably like mid-July, we have to be done with that. But we're working on recruiting some at different summer intensives this summer.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, if anybody wants to send in a video or like is interested in their next step for an education that's conservatory style, this is a good fit for you. Yeah,
for sure. What's maybe just an overview of the program itself? So if someone was to come, get their bachelor's degree there, I know you said there's different concentrations that people can focus on. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So it's a 4-year degree smushed into 3 years. Nice. So that way we cut down a whole year of tuition cost. So we don't charge more for having 19 to 20 credits per semester. You have to do 2 summer terms to get in those credits, just because you can't really do more than 20 credits a semester. It's too much. So 2 really short, they're 7-week summer terms just to get some academics in.
Okay, cool.
And so you can get it done in 3 years, which is really amazing. And there's 3 areas of concentration: performance, choreography, and dance ministry. Cool. So the strength of Störling Dance Theater is storytelling and just production, and then I have a lot of experience in dance ministry from being in Europe for so many summers.
Right.
And so each of these areas of concentration kind of touches on a highlight that Störling can offer, and then the different people that I'm connecting with to be professors and teachers in the conservatory. And so Cynthia Newland is one of our adjuncts now. She's coming this summer to do an in-person 2-week short course. And Britta Wynn is also coming as a guest, which is so fun.
So cool.
She was at Belhaven teaching modern. So she's coming this summer for a week. Or I say this summer, it's in August. It's when school starts. Yeah. At the beginning of it. And then Laura moved here. And I just feel like the last 10 years has been teaching me to dream of big things and to see them happen. And when this kind of was presented to me, it wasn't just becoming this dance department. It was this bigger idea of creating this Christian conservatory with Visible's focus on worship in the Lord, and just having a real preparation for artists to have a root in the Lord and to have an eternal perspective of a Christian faith, but then also be prepared for marketplace and to work in the industry and or in the church, like both sides of it.
Right.
And I just love that idea. And so we're already working on trying to do that with the artist development program that I was leading. And so it just was a natural fit, And so we also see the need of not just music and dance, but theater, musical theater, and visual arts as well.
Yes, that would be so cool.
Yes. So this is the bigger picture, and then not even just having the bachelor's degree, but then having master's degrees on top of that, so getting into that master's level.
Yes.
And so then my next thing of okay, what's impossible? So the next impossible thing that I can think of, because I'm not equipped for it. I don't even know who can help me with it right now, but the need is there, and that's to have a master's in dance therapy. And I just have seen the desire for it in students over the years, both on the missions field, in Europe. And there were a couple of people at Belhaven that talked about it a little bit and just wishing that it existed,
Yeah.
And then we've had students come through in the ADP program, and they really wanted to work with refugees and work with trafficking victims and just the whole spectrum. And they just really were passionate about that. And I was like, I don't know how to equip you. I don't know.
I feel like there's so much that goodness and beauty that could happen with that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So much opportunity.
So powerful. Yeah. So that's my next, I want to see us become a full campus and offer all the schools of the School of Music, and to create a bachelor's degree in musical theater. I'm actually going to start that this fall, working on it. It'll be a 2-year process, but
awesome.
I'm ready for the next thing.
Yes.
So that's the next step. And then we would do a degree for theater students, and then somewhere in there, a degree for art students, and then working on the master's level.
Awesome.
And so I don't know. I'm the Lord can do it. He wants to do it. I feel like he wants to. And I feel like I am the person to dream it. I don't think that I'm the person to do it, but I feel like a David almost it's my dream, and I'm going to hold on to it, and I'm going to pray for it, and then see it happen. But I don't think I'm the person to do it. There'll be someone else that comes in that's been prepared, that it's their dream too. And they've been praying for an opportunity to see this happen. And so, so that's my next big dream. But then the littler ones that are also equally as important that I am going to start working on this fall. I had a meeting yesterday about it, is 2 of them. One is to have a professional degree completion for professional dance artists that have danced professionally for years and taught and choreographed, but never took the time to get a degree.
Yes.
They want to, so they can teach in higher education or to get a master's level. And so we will create a program for them that is just filling in the spots, just the holes, so they can transfer in their life experience and any random credits they've gathered along the way, and then, complete a degree as quickly or as slowly as they want to, at a very minimal cost.
That would be so cool. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, I don't know that I've ever seen that before. So that would be super, super awesome.
Yeah. I think there's, it probably exists somewhere in some university, but not really advertised. It's not an advertised thing. It's okay, yeah, we know you, we know you're doing this. We can just help you along, kind of thing. And so I've had discussions with Randy and Randall Flynn and Bill Wade also about what would it look like to have a dancer dancing in your company, but then finishing their degree with us and just coming for the summer or for a couple weeks, but getting credit dancing with you guys, but then finishing their degree with us.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, wouldn't that be so fun? So I'm really excited about developing that. And we're waiting right now for the DOE to approve student visas, so we can also then have international connections and do study abroad and have international students. And so that's just a prayer request. We just have to wait. It's been submitted. We're just waiting for the approval there. So that whole professional track bit. And then also, because I'm a mom of these littles, it was never expected that I thought I would stop and just raise kids, not just raise kids, but
Right.
that's like the normal trajectory,
Uh-huh.
and that's definitely not what the Lord had planned. And I love it, but you need help. And I have my
Mhm.
mom here in town, and so she helps. And then the Culture House is amazing. For Störling Dance Theater, they have childcare every morning for their company. So
Oh,
I would say a
wow.
third of the company members, almost half really, they have little kids. And
That's
so they
amazing.
are in childcare with, like, in the playroom, couple, doors, like there's four studios. And so the playroom is like on the side, and then there's these four studios. And so they're dancing, and they can like have the kid in the studio with them if they're a little baby and they're
Yeah.
nursing, or they can be in the playroom up until they, go to preschool or kindergarten.
Mhm.
And so we have 10 kids right now in this playroom and in this nursery, and it's right there. So my babies are there, and my office is just down the hall. And so I can hear when they're like crying about something. And if I'm like, okay, they need some help, I can walk
Uh-huh.
down the hall and, help solve whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful representation of motherhood and continuing to follow your dreams and like
Mm.
not stopping something because you're called to raise a child. And so
Yeah.
Störling just had their spring concert a month ago, and one of the dancers in it is due the same week that I'm due. And she performed, and it's her first baby. So she wasn't really showing much, but she was showing, and they still were
Yeah.
like, dance on stage, you're fine, like,
Yeah. Like
whatever you're comfortable
celebrating
with.
that. Mhm.
Yes. And there were two other moms that are still nursing, and they, performed. And during
Yeah.
rehearsals, they would have to take a pause to go give the baby some milk, and
Uh-huh.
it just is so beautiful that there's space for that there. And it is cherished and developed and nurtured. And so I want to take that and I want to put it into a university setting. I don't know what that
Mhm.
looks like quite yet, but both for teachers to
Yes.
allow a
Yeah.
space for childcare for the teacher while they're there. And then also for students, like for adult moms that,
Mhm.
got married and start having babies, and they're like, but I'm not done. Like there's more. I want to continue doing this. And
Yeah.
so then to develop a mom track,
Yeah.
because we tried it this last year for the certificate with a mom. She was kind of our guinea pig, and she only did it for half the year because it was a little bit too challenging. She had several kids in school, but the problem was they kept getting sick, and then she kept missing class,
Yeah.
and her school kept going online, and it was too much for her at that point. So
Mhm.
she's pausing for a couple of years to get her kids a little bit older in school. She's homeschooling for a little bit, and then she'll come back around. But we really
Yeah.
worked out a lot of, okay, these are the real issues that happen when a baby is sick or a kid is throwing up at home. The mom has to be there. Like it's the
Right.
mom's job to be there, So you can't Zoom a class when that's happening. You have to be with your baby. You have to hold them. You
Mhm.
have to take care of them. So how do we manage the face-to-face time with a professor for the degree requirements, but also allow space for a mother to be a mother in
Mm.
that?
I love that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to start that conversation this fall to see with Visible and to just check through the accreditation rules and all that stuff, like what needs to happen and how can we make that happen, and how can we
Mm.
have childcare like in the culture house, like in house, like right down this hall, from the studio. And
Yeah.
anyway, so that's what I'm working on right now.
So good. It's really cool hearing just like the vision, that God's given you for so many different areas, but that all really work together,
Mhm.
and so excited to see how it will continue to grow and expand and,
Mhm.
develop into each of these things, and even more probably than what we're even envisioning at the moment, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, my life verse is Ephesians 3:20, which is, for he is able to do exceedingly and abundantly beyond anything you could ever ask for or imagine, according to the power of the Holy Spirit that is at work within you. And when I
yes.
was at Belhaven, I had this realization of the power that raised Jesus from the dead. That power of the Holy Spirit is in me. So
Mhm.
what impossible things can he do? So many impossible things, right? And
Yeah.
so then just for years, I've been like meditating on that, and just like, that's like, I want to see more of that happen. I want to see more artists the impossible dreams of God. We think they're impossible, but to God, he's like, I already see it. It's happening. It's there. Like it's written. It's in the timeline. You just have to have faith and say yes. And you have to be obedient, the little steps along the way to be prepared for all the things that you don't even know that are unexpected when that journey comes,
Yes.
And so I feel a lot of that right now, of just little things that I never thought. I just was like, oh, I'm just doing this just to do this. And even like the youth ministry that I was a part of, I had no idea that I would use so much of working with college students and listening to them and learning boundaries and knowing that those years of college are often when you question your faith and like the Lord and following him. What does it mean? And what is the world saying? And what is art saying? And wow, it's such a mess right now. And all those things. And I'm like, none of it scares me. I'm just so excited. And I'm like, okay, this is the adventure. And he's going to bring the people that I need. And he is, and so I'm just continuing to pray for all the people that are currently working in their careers and being prepared. They may not even know it right now, but to come and help us with these other schools, and to have this kind of new university model with its, conservatory style. And it's so needed right now. I think that the arts are just under massive attack and there's just so much confusion about what is art and, gender identity and Christianity and, what does it look like to follow Jesus? And how can you live the New Testament? Like, what does that look like in present day? And so being able to have a space for that, I think is the Father's heart. Like he wants that and he has a plan. So I'm just trying to listen and say yes and be like, I have nobody to help me yet, but yes, I will do this, and then he'll bring them, they'll come, and it's really fun. I actually love it. I love the anticipation and just the chance to exercise dreaming bigger dreams and to even press in to hear, what are other dreams that God has.
Right. I think that's a huge encouragement for moms that are, listening to this, that are thinking, I don't know that I'm done yet. Like you said, like there's more and, it's going to look different for each person, but what an encouragement like you are for people that are in that season. And then also just the exciting like possibilities, I guess, that are out there. Do you have something on your heart that you'd like to share with other artists that may be listening right now?
I think the phrase that comes to my mind is, why not you? Why not now? Like the world just really needs us to be the hands and feet of Jesus at a whole new level, both just in our home life, like with our kids and our families, our parents and our siblings, because of how much seclusion we've experienced the last couple of years. And then also just in this world, like, why not you? Why not now? And that phrase just has stuck with me even through this of Queen Esther. My daughter right now is really into Queen Esther. And so we read it like almost every night, like Esther and Ruth, we go back and forth between them. And she's like, why, mommy? She's 4.5, why? And so like learning to talk about these really intense things with a 4.5-year-old just really changes certain perspectives,
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking, how the Lord like put Esther in that place, prepared her for it. But she still had to choose. She still had to make the decision to stand up. And, Mordecai said, if you don't stand up, somebody will, because we're not going to be annihilated. Like somebody will do this. Yeah. But why not you? Why not now? Like, this is what you were put here for, And so I just wonder how many of us artists are put somewhere very specifically to do something, and we just have to do it. We have to listen and be obedient, not take our time. Don't rush ahead. She had prayer and fasting for a while and had a whole group supporting her too for this massive thing that she was going to do. But at the same time, it's just the simplicity of listening to the Holy Spirit and knowing, like wanting to be obedient and knowing what that obedience is like in the little things. So everyday decisions, everyday life, valuing life, from the highs and the lows, all of it. And then just continuing to ask the Lord, what dreams do you have for me? that I need to dream, that are your dreams, that you will prepare the way for me. But what are they, So I'm really passionate about teaching other artists to dream. When I got married to my husband, I don't think I knew this, but he had no dreams. And at one point he was like, I don't even know how to dream. And I was like, what? How do you not know how to dream? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm such a dreamer. And so I've had to learn how to encourage dreams in him. And he has them now, of course, too. And then now raising children, it's like, how do you encourage a dream that isn't selfish and self-focused and self-satisfying, but how do you encourage a dream that honors the Lord and that is a picture of his majesty and giving glory to him that is impossible, that only he can do, So, like developing an understanding of what it means to dream, and then I think I'll write a book on it someday.
Yes, you totally should. That'd be awesome.
Of like how to dream and what to do when dreams feel empty and to leave you unsatisfied, and what to do when it takes them, they're just 10 or so years away, or it's not even yours to see fulfilled. Again, like King David, he dreamed of the temple and it wasn't his to see fulfilled. And so, but knowing that someone has to dream it, someone has to start that dream for it to be fulfilled. And to have, being able to lay it down and say, this is my dream, but it's the Lord's. And so I'm going to dream it and work towards it. But if I don't see it fulfilled, that's okay, because it's not about me, it's about him. And so, what areas of your life as an artist, big and small, because all matters. All of it matters to him. So, so good. And so profound. I think that'll speak to every single person listening. So one thing that you've probably heard me ask other people too, but that I like to hear from you guys is, what is one of your favorite things right now? Yes. Plants and gardening.
Ooh, yes.
It's totally different. And
I love it.
It started with succulents. I love succulents and like learning to grow them and propagate them. And it's just one of my favorite little things. And that's grown into houseplants. And now I have a house. I was in an apartment for a long time, but we have had a house for a couple of years. And so I'm learning to landscape it and take care of plants outside. And I really wanted to start a garden this summer. That was like my goal, but I just couldn't get to it before I got too far in my pregnancy. And so I have no garden, no vegetables, but I have herbs, and I have a plan to do one next year.
Nice.
Because I want to teach my girls and our little son about gardening, and just know that the vegetables that we're eating, are really like grown, they're healthy for us. And it just makes me so happy to get my hands in the dirt and to pull out weeds and to watch things grow. And I think I love succulents because they take a long time to grow, but they're super resilient if they have the right nurturing / you have to kind of leave them alone for a bit. So you kind of ignore them. Okay. So they just take a while to propagate and the right conditions, but they're just so successful, and I don't know. I feel like that speaks to me. You have to kind of tend them, and you have to pull off dead leaves, and you have to repot them and reroot them over and over and over again. But a little succulent plant will just keep growing and keep producing like so many other plants from one little plant. And so I think that sometimes when I get frustrated or like a little bit depressed about how long things are taking, or how hard it is to manage motherhood and, keeping children alive and like doing this dance program, like I think I just go out and put my hands in the dirt, or I go pull off some dead leaves or something. And I just feel stressed, like releasing from my body, And so I think if I wasn't a dancer and a director, I would have a flower garden and I would sell flowers.
That would be so cool. I could totally see that for sure. Yes.
Have a tea room and like have tea and a little space with, hats. You can come wear a hat and drink some tea.
Exactly.
Buy some flowers. Yeah. So maybe when I'm like 80, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for sure. There's different seasons for different things. So I know it was funny before we started recording. I was like, I have my tea because I was thinking of you and your love of tea. So fun. Yeah. There's so many analogies, I feel like, with, gardening and with tending to plants and succulents. That's so cool. I didn't know that about succulents. So I learned something new today. That's really fun.
They're really resilient, but they overwater easily if it's not rainwater. But they just keep reproducing, and you think it's dead, and then all of a sudden a little bud comes out. And I'm like, yes, there's still life. Cool. There's still life in there.
Yeah, so fun. Well, this has been like so much fun just to get to hear your heart and everything that God is doing there in Kansas City and beyond. Obviously, there's like so many connections, which is really, really fun to see. But so thank you for doing this. And I would love to let people know where they can connect in with the Störling Conservatory and also just with you if they wanted to reach out. So what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Kathleen.Schuler. And then we have a Störling Conservatory Instagram, Störling_Conservatory. And then also our website is StörlingConservatory.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then Facebook, we're on Facebook too. I have a personal Facebook account, Kathleen.Norberg.Schuler. I think Norberg is my maiden name. And then Störling Conservatory on Facebook as well. So both of those. Yeah. And it's just been a pleasure, Rachel. You reached out to me at the beginning of the podcast, but that was like right after I'd had Elsie and right when this was happening. And
kind of all starting to take off.
Like, I want to, but now is not the time. I've got to wait a little while. And then it's just perfect timing. Yep. Yeah. So thank you for doing this interview and having this podcast also. It's just really encouraging. And I'm just so grateful to hear what God is doing all around the country. And he's just doing such beautiful things with artists right now. And it's really encouraging.
Thank you so much. You guys, I just love Kathleen so much and her beautiful heart for the Lord, for dreaming big dreams, for inspiring each of us. And I'm so grateful she took the time to come and share about what's happening at Störling Conservatory and just to share her story with us today. As a reminder, the fall audition for Störling Conservatory is happening on November 19th, 2022. And you can learn more by going to their website, StörlingConservatory.com. So that's StörlingConservatory.com. You can find all of the links that we talked about today, the full show notes, and additional resources on our website, creativeimpactpodcast.com. If you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. And also, if you would be willing to leave a rating and review, that would be so wonderful because it helps other people find the show as well. Thank you so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show is produced by Michael Cash. I invite you to share the show with a friend, check out our Patreon community, and remember that you were designed to create and made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. See you next time, friends.